When we first moved into the neighborhood, I thought the fence between my property and my neighbor's was nothing more than a strip of privacy. A clean, 6-foot-tall cedar barrier, its warm scent lingering in the summer sun, seemed harmless enough. I couldn't have guessed that one day that fence would become the epicenter of one of the most nerve-wracking, dangerous, and unbelievable chapters of my life. A chapter that would nearly see my neighbor in jail and my family living in fear. It all started on a breezy Saturday morning. My wife was trimming the gardenias by the back gate, our 2 kids playing with chalk on the driveway. I was sipping my coffee, half lost in the warmth of the weekend, when I heard it, a sharp, deliberate tap, tap, tap on the wooden panels. At first I thought it was the wind or maybe a bird. But then came the voice. "You know that fence is illegal, right?" The voice was sharp, laced with the venom of someone who's been waiting far too long to pick a fight. I walked over, coffee in hand, and saw her, Linda Harper, my next-door neighbor. She was in her late 50s, thin-lipped, her hair pulled back so tightly it looked like it hurt. I'd heard the whispers about her, the kind of neighbor who filed noise complaints if you mowed too early, who measured lawn height with a ruler, and who could recite the HOA bylaws like a holy text. Her eyes were locked on me, icy and judgmental. "Your fence is over the height limit. The HOA won't like that," she said, tilting her head in mock concern. I told her calmly that the fence was well within the regulations and had been approved before we moved in. She smirked, the kind of smirk that told me this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Over the next week, things escalated in ways I couldn't have imagined. First, it was the late-night pounding on the fence. 2, 3 in the morning. The kids would wake up crying, thinking someone was trying to break in. Then came the strange notes slipped under our door. "Enjoy your fence while you can." No signature, but the shaky handwriting and perfume-like scent told me all I needed to know. My wife begged me to ignore her, to not give her the satisfaction of a reaction. But Linda wasn't just being annoying, she was becoming dangerous. One evening, I came home from work to find my wife standing in the yard, pale as a ghost. "She was here," she whispered. She came into our backyard. My blood went cold. According to my wife, she'd caught Linda walking along the fence line inside our property, measuring sections with a tape measure and muttering to herself. When confronted, Linda claimed she had every right to be there because the fence affects property lines. I called the HOA president immediately, and to my surprise, he sighed heavily. "You're not the first," he said. Apparently, Linda had a long history of harassing neighbors over fences, sheds, even patio umbrellas. The HOA had sent her multiple warnings, but she ignored them. I thought maybe official warnings would stop her, but that's when she turned truly sinister. The next week, our security cameras caught her doing something chilling, leaning over the fence late at night, pouring some kind of liquid into our flower beds. When we checked in the morning, the plants were withered, their leaves brittle and brown. The vet confirmed it was a toxic chemical that could have harmed not just the plants, but pets or even kids if they came into contact with it. That's when my patience snapped. I wasn't going to wait for her to escalate further. We decided to document everything. I installed additional security cameras, some visible and some hidden. I kept a log of every incident, dates, times, actions. Within 2 weeks, we had a collection of footage that looked like something out of a true crime documentary. Linda yelling threats over the fence, shaking it violently, trespassing into our yard, and even standing motionless in the shadows, watching our house for hours. My wife couldn't sleep. The kids started asking why the mean lady hated us. This was no longer just an HOA dispute. This was harassment. When I took the evidence to the police, they were stunned. Officer Daniels, a broad-shouldered man with a calm but firm demeanor, watched the footage with narrowed eyes. "This is stalking," he said flatly. "And if what's in that chemical bottle tests the way I think it will, she's looking at more than just a fine." They sent the substance to a lab and told me to keep the cameras rolling. That night, as if she sensed the walls closing in, Linda made her boldest move yet. Around midnight, I heard the sound of scraping metal outside. I looked out the window and saw her, trying to dismantle a section of our fence with a crowbar. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. I grabbed my phone, hit record, and called 911. The dispatcher's voice was calm, but my hands shook as I explained what was happening. Within minutes, flashing red and blue lights lit up our street. The officers moved in quickly. Linda tried to claim that the fence was on her property and she was simply restoring her rights, but the footage told a different story. When the officers informed her she was under arrest for trespassing, vandalism, and harassment, she went pale, then exploded into a tantrum worthy of reality TV. She screamed, cursed, and even tried to lunge at me before being restrained. My neighbors peeked out from their curtains, some filming on their phones, as Linda was handcuffed and placed into the back of the squad car. The aftermath was surreal. The police later confirmed that the chemical she used was dangerous enough to be considered a potential weapon. With the evidence we provided, she was charged with multiple counts that could carry jail time. The HOA, finally embarrassed into action, banned her from holding any position in the association and slapped her with fines that would make anyone think twice. For weeks afterward, the street felt lighter. My kids played outside again without fear. My wife slept peacefully for the first time in months. But the most chilling moment came a few days after her arrest, when Officer Daniels returned to update us. "You did the right thing," he said. "She's done this before, but no one's ever had enough proof to press charges. You might have stopped her from hurting someone." I realized then that this wasn't just about offense. It was about standing up to someone who thought they could terrorize others into submission. And while Linda awaits her court date, the fence still stands, taller than ever in my eyes, not just as a barrier of wood and nails, but as a symbol. A reminder that sometimes the thing worth protecting most isn't your property line, it's your family as peace of mind. And if you have to fight to keep it, you fight until the last nail is in place.